Islamic State as the background for its disturbing propaganda videos. Not anymore, though. The jihadists are now surrounded there by forces loyal to the UN-backed Libyan government. We have an exclusive report on that from our correspondent William Wypman in just a moment, though first, a look at the frontline fighting he witnessed so far in Sirte.
We are making our way through the front lines in Sirte. At an intersection, a Libyan government fighter warns us to drive as fast as possible. Islamic State sharpshooters are firing on anything crossing the road.
No.
Suddenly, these fighters spot an Islamic State suicide car bomb being driven straight at our position. As we rushed inside to take cover, a Libyan fighter shot the incoming armoured car with an RPG, killing the driver and stopping the vehicle in its tracks.
This is the car bomb. This is the car bomb that went up outside. That's what all the shooting just was. They were trying to stop it.
So yeah, there was a car bomb just outside there. We're just looking.
But now that the jihadists have been driven out of most areas of Sirte, William was able to access places where ISIL filmed some of its most gruesome execution videos.
There's a big Islamic State mural on the wall here. These are everywhere. Most of them are being painted over. I've yet to see why this one hasn't been painted over. It'll probably be done soon. But yeah, this is what it would have looked like everywhere before they started being removed. This is a glimpse of what life was like here.
In August, the US Air Force joined the battle, aiding the advance of Libyan brigades by knocking out Islamic State armoured vehicles on the ground.
Just here behind me, you can see this is an Islamic State tank that was hit by an American airstrike. The videos of it have been released on the internet.
Despite recent large-scale loss of territory in battlefronts across the Middle East and North Africa, the organisation still relies heavily upon one of its most effective weapons: slickly produced internet propaganda videos steeped in ideology and often depicting brutal executions. We went in search of some of the locations in Sirte featured in these notorious clips. The Rabat Mosque, downtown Sirte. Recently recaptured by Libyan government brigades, this place was used by Islamic State to teach religious doctrines. It also featured heavily in their propaganda.
Here you can see an Islamic State propaganda video which was filmed in this very mosque. You can see he's sat right here reading from this Quran, obviously in the famed Islamic State high-quality propaganda video. But yeah, it's right here in this mosque, and this has just been retaken by the fighters here, with 500 meters from the front.
And just across town, in newly liberated territory, the Islamic State filmed one of their most infamous execution videos. In February 2015, Islamic State released video footage depicting the beheading of 21 Egyptian Coptic Christian migrant workers. The men, who had been working in Sirte, were taken hostage by the group a few months prior to the incident.
We've just received a call from the police here in Sirte, and they've invited us to come along and check out the cells and the place where the Egyptians who were slaughtered by Islamic State were being held, and then the place when they were killed. We're going to go and just check it out now.
At the police station, located right next to the beach, newly returned local law enforcement officers led us down a flight of steps to a small underground prison.
They were kept here before they were taken and slaughtered on the beach. Is that correct?
The officer proceeded to show us around the cells that the men were held in.
In here as well. So there's absolutely no daylight in here. There's no windows, nothing. It's hot. As you can see, I'm really sweating. It's really hot. No daylight. I mean, it'd be nightmarish to be stuck in here, waiting for your fate. Horrible if you think about it. And so the guy was saying that a number of people were kept in there, not just the Egyptians, and when Islamic State pulled back, they killed a huge number of them, and some of the rest of them have been taken into the city where they're holding their positions now. Okay, so he wants us to photograph it from here. He doesn't want us to go down onto the beach. So yeah, this is the stretch of beach where it happened.
We later went to the beach. After a short while of searching, we were able to find the location of the execution by matching the contours of the shoreline to images of the incident. From CERT, William Whiteman.
Pro-Assad forces battling for control of an Aleppo suburb. Government troops say they've severed a narrow supply corridor, which rebels opened only days ago.
We, the Syrian armed forces, are now at the entrance of the Ramusa district and will push even further deep in order to track down these terrorists as far as we can go until we retake all of Aleppo.
These latest attacks on rebel groups, including the former Nusra Front in and around Aleppo, have also been backed by airstrikes from the US-led coalition. 3 rebel leaders are said to have died in the strikes as they held a meeting in the West Aleppo countryside. One of them was Abu Hajar al-Khomsi, also known as Abu Omar Sarakheb. He was a top field commander of Jaish al-Fateh, formerly known as al-Nusra Front. It's the first time the coalition has targeted fighters from the rebel group since it cut ties with Al-Qaeda in late July. It's also the first time the armed group's been hit by airstrikes as it and other opposition groups attempted to break the siege of Aleppo.
The fight in Aleppo is a matter of life or death for us. If one of our fighters falls, another will stand up and continue the fight. Despite all the airstrikes carried out by the regime, the Russians, and today even by the US-led coalition, we will not surrender and stop defending our people. The fight will go on no matter what.
These children in Aleppo's al-Sukhari district are some of those caught in that fighting. They're trying to find their missing father, but they're being stopped from going any further. The girl says, "I just want to see him. Please, I want to go and see him." The boy says he will go anyway. They're told there's nothing, just smoke, and they can't cross. The Syrian Human Rights Observatory says 700 civilians have died in the last 40 days of fighting in Aleppo. At least 50 people are said to have been killed there since Wednesday.
US and Russia agreed a breakthrough deal to put Syria's peace process back on track. The army attacked rebel-held areas ahead of Monday's truce. Insurgents are reportedly planning a counter-offensive. There's been a mixed reaction to news of the Geneva Agreement. Syria's moderate Free Syrian Army rebels say they see little chance of it succeeding, as the last deal had not been observed. The US and Russia, who are backing opposing sides in the war, announced a deal in the early hours of Saturday. It included a nationwide ceasefire effective from sundown on Monday, improved aid access and joint targeting of banned militant Islamist groups. The emphasis is on stopping the bloodshed for long enough to allow substantive peace talks to be held. The EU head of diplomacy, Federica Mogherini, says the truce must be transformed into a longer-term political transition. Turkey says it will support efforts to ensure the truce holds and turn it into a longer-term political solution.
For it, World War III. It's primed to go. Military now mobilizing near the Ukrainian border, according to the Daily Star. Breaking this story here, Russia appears to be poised for war as footage now has emerged of a massive number of movements of Vladimir Putin's weapons towards Ukraine. Now, this footage shows, now this is you can see one of the frames there, as well as the frame right below. These are 2 pictures composited together. There's a train, and then there's also on the road there. Now, the video has emerged of a military train brimming with trucks and mobile missile launchers 60 miles from the Ukrainian border. Again, they also state that the footage shows a gigantic column of Putin's tanks moving near Crimea as part of a large-scale war game operation with 12,000 soldiers. So the top picture is the column of tanks. The lower picture is the trains. They right here, the tensions are at all-time high between Russia and Ukraine after Moscow accused Kiev of plotting a terrorist attack in the annexed peninsula. So they're holding a massive war game, 12,000 troops right there on the border with Ukraine. We've stated this. This is textbook flexing of military might and movement of troops in the event of possible war. Okay? War games serve as the cover for doing just that. And that's what you're witnessing. These are the footsteps and the drum beats to war. Now, the reason we say World War III is very simple, because the United States is backing Ukraine. NATO is backing Ukraine. We have troops there now who are training Ukrainian soldiers. So if something does go on, something kicks off, it's going to be our boys and our girls on the line right there fighting in Ukraine. All right, just like we keep putting more troops and more troops and more troops back into Iraq, same exact thing will happen there. Except the real enemy will be the Soviet, former Soviet state.
The ceremony on Saturday marks the start of the launch of the Iran-Russia Bushehr II project. The cost is estimated at $10 billion. Implementation is expected to take 10 years. There were many people who did not want this project to go ahead, said the Russian nuclear expert involved. From an engineering point of view, no one in the global nuclear industries ever achieved anything like this. The head of Iran's nuclear energy agency said this is a good sign of Iran and Russia entering a new phase of strategic cooperation in peaceful nuclear energy, and in particular co-production of fuel and isotopes is being considered. Under the terms of the deal, the two countries agreed to build the second and third reactors at the site in southern Iran. There's an option to build 6 more in the future. In 2015, in Vienna, Iran agreed to guarantee a civilian nuclear program in return for the lifting of international sanctions.
Powers have been verbally strong. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said it cannot put up with such tests, and Japan will work out how to respond with other members of the UN Security Council.
This can never be tolerated. We must lodge a strong protest.
Japan is well prepped to react to any direct hostility from North Korea. Earlier this year, North Korea tested missiles that went into Japan's air defense identification zone for the first time. The US, which has a strong military presence in South Korea, also condemned the nuclear test from the north. A White House spokesperson said President Obama would continue consultations on North Korea to, quote, ensure provocative actions from North Korea are met with serious consequences. US Secretary of State John Kerry was meeting Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Geneva as reports of the test were coming in.
Obviously, Japan and South Korea particularly are deeply concerned because of the neighborhood, but I think it's fair to say that China, Russia, the United States, everybody shares the concerns, but we're trying still to monitor to find out precisely what took place and at the appropriate moment today. I'm confident President Obama will address this, and we will certainly be discussing this in the context of the United Nations, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm also going to talk to Minister Kishida this morning. When we have some break in these negotiations, we're very much concerned, and the resolutions of the Security Council must be implemented, and we will send this message very strongly.
North Korea's only real ally, China, has also expressed strong opposition.
The Chinese Foreign Ministry has issued a statement to express the Chinese government's firm opposition, realizing denuclearization and non-proliferation of the Korean Peninsula, maintaining peace and stability in Northeast Asia, are China's resolute stance. We strongly urge North Korea to keep its commitment of non-proliferation, abide by the relevant resolutions by the United Nations Security Council, and stop any actions that could worsen the situation.
China has called for a resolution through 6-party talks. It will also lodge its own diplomatic protest through the North Korean embassy in Beijing.